They're in a box. They are in a box where they've got to choose between a mentally incompetent president and a DEI vice president.
You can see that he wishes he had half the competency of Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't talk to me about what a DEI hire looks like, because we know that you have never, ever engaged in diversity, equity, or inclusion when it came to your office.
How can the party that gave us Herschel Walker try and claim that Kamala Harris is DEI? Hi, my name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. And never mind that, that's just a little leftover celebration from the channel hitting 100,000 subscribers. And thank you to you for being a part of the journey. Huh? What's that? I told you. I told y'all about the New York Post. I literally told y'all about the New York Post.
It's one thing if the RNC does it and are sleaze bags about, lying about what's actually happening with their cheap fakes. It's quite another when the New York Post does it.
I got to disagree. You put some respect on the New York Post's name. They have a proven track record of being just as big a sleaze bags. By the way, a link to that piece is in the description. Although, to be fair, most of y'all didn't need telling about the New York Post. Apparently, the man outside the barbershops to start charging. But why settle on print with the New York Post when you can just say what you mean?
But I mean, do these donors really think that Kamala Harris is going to do better in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania than Joe Biden would? I mean, that's the because it can't be anybody else, right?
Hey, Rob, you're being logical. Stop it. All right. She's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman. She's colored. Therefore, she's got to be good.
There's a lot at stake. Plus, the progressive movement, they are this close to locking this thing in. They have opened the borders. They've changed the entire culture of this country. If you look at the cities, it's almost over. If they can drag him across the finish line and install Kamala, we have a DEI presidency that they can celebrate for the rest of the administration.
Now, that Rupert Murdoch is nothing if not consistent. Now, I joked a while back about people using DEI when they really mean black. Y'all remember when they were calling Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott the DEI mayor? Baltimore's DEI mayor commenting on the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge. It's going to get so much worse. Prepare accordingly. I mean, when we hear about a train derailment or subway mishap, it's never, what's with all these white people? This is what happens when there's no DEI. But when there's a brown face in the general vicinity, no matter how far away it is, it's an indictment of all of us. See, they pointed to Israel and then to plagiarism. With Boeing, they pointed to HBCU programs, all misdirection. But this was so lazy, they just left the pure, unadulterated racism just out in the open for all to see.
I know, and we all know, and you know very well, that black men and young black men in particular have been the boogeyman for those who are racist and think that only straight, wealthy white men should have a say in anything. We've been the boogeyman from them since the first day they brought us to this country. And what they mean by DEI, in my opinion, is duly elected incumbent. We know what they want to say, but they don't have the courage to say the N-word. And the fact that I don't believe in their untruthful and wrong ideology, and I am very proud of my heritage and who I am and where I come from, scares them, because me being at my position means that their way of thinking, their way of life of being comfortable and suffering, and while everyone else suffers, is going to be at risk, and they should be afraid, because that's my purpose in life.
Now, I don't know exactly how that works to have a DEI mayor. Was he elected with DEI ballots? Were these ballots only presented to black people, or were they made of kente cloth? Did they have the Pan-African colors? Were the DEI ballots delivered late? I'm trying to figure out how he managed to even get elected when all the ballots came in on CP time. Explain to me how an elected official is a DEI mayor. Now, I joked a while back about people using DEI when they really mean black, but they are literally saying DEI when they really mean black.
Here's Chip Roy of Texas, the guy who was in favor of bringing back lynching and who admitted that he only nominated Byron Donalds to be speaker because he was black and the Democrats had nominated Hakeem Jeffries. Just want to set for my audience up to remind y'all who he is. Here he is talking about the Vice President of the United States.
At the end of the day, I don't think they'll go there. I don't think they can. They're in a box. They are in a box where they've got to choose between a mentally incompetent president and a DEI vice president, and they know that they're going to be facing a problem either way.
So help me out, Republicans. I mean, if I work hard at my job, at my vocation, and I get promoted, then I would be DEI. And then if I'm somebody who's in a pool of people that can be selected for something, if I'm selected, that would be DEI. If I am elected by the people themselves, that would be DEI. Of course, if I start my own business and I build it up from scratch myself, then my success would be DEI. I'm curious, how exactly can I, as a black man, not be DEI? I don't understand. Like, do I have to walk around in a hockey mask? I'm trying to figure out how I can escape being DEI as a black, huh? Oh, they got an announcement? Oh, I get it now. I get it now. So I suddenly become qualified when I support the destruction of my own kind. I now, because that makes sense, because I'm sitting here wondering, I'm like, why is it that all of a sudden Kanye and Lawrence Taylor.
And I've always been a Democrat until I met this man right here.
And Royce White and Chef G are not DEI, but Kamala Harris and Hakeem Jeffries are DEI. I mean, like, how can the party that gave us Herschel Walker try and claim that Kamala Harris is DEI?
See, that is a person wielding that weapon. You know, Cain killed Abel. And that's the problem that we have. And I said, what we need to do is look into how we can stop those things. You know, he talked about doing a disinformation. What about getting a department that can look at young men that's looking at women, that's looking at just social media? What about doing that, looking into things like that, and we can stop that way? But yet they want to just continue to talk about taking away your constitutional rights. And I think there's more things we need to look into. This has been happening for years, and the way we stop it by putting money into the mental health field, by putting money into other departments rather than departments that want to take away your rights.
I mean, look at your presidential nominee. I mean, you want to talk about DEI. I mean, list me Trump's qualifications to be president. And by the way, I have a couple of caveats. You can't mention any businesses that went bankrupt. You can't not mention any marriages with infidelity or any relationships that didn't end in prison or home confinement. Go ahead. I'll wait. The party that boasts Marjorie Taylor Greene as a top 5 fundraiser when she posted this. Is calling somebody else out for DEI. You know what? Y'all actually need some DEI if we're being honest. Like, nobody needs DEI like MAGA, if I'm gonna be honest with you, and not the kind of DEI y'all been getting, because y'all definitely need better black representation. In fact, I see why y'all mad. Now, all of a sudden, now I see why they are mad at DEI, because the DEI they've been sending them Herschels and LTs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can understand why you would be mad if all of a sudden you went to Diversify and they brought back Candace Owens. Like, I get it. I get it. 2 stars on Yelp. 2 stars on Yelp for the DEI program at best. Now, by the way, our very own Jasmine Crockett, she actually exposed this whole sham of DEI, this whole phenomenon of all black people being DEI. She exposed this weeks ago.
I just want to go over a few things that are concerning and alarming to me. I don't know if you're familiar, but have you ever heard of Project 2025?
I've read about that, Congresswoman.
Okay. And there are some things indicated in Project 2025 that are quite concerning to me. And I want to talk about a few of those topics because this hearing almost feels like a Project 2025 hearing. One of those topics is diversity in the workplace. The agenda includes making sure that the next conservative administration dismantles DEI apparatus by eliminating various chief diversity officer positions, et cetera. And you engaged in an exchange earlier with one of my colleagues, and I don't know if you recall, but it was hit me a little differently as a Black woman sitting here, because it almost seemed as if you either get diversity or you get qualifications. It did not seem as if my colleague understood that someone can be diverse and qualified. And it is why you have people like me that get very frustrated, not just in the halls of Congress, but in general in this country. Because as I'm sitting here, and there seemed to be this question of you're either diverse or you're qualified, all I could think about was the fact that I currently hold an honorary doctorate. I also hold a Juris Doctorate. I also hold a bachelor's. I also technically hold the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Civil Air Patrol, and I actually practiced law for almost 2 decades, in addition to serving on various boards, in addition to being a prior state lawmaker. And there are those that would make some people believe that because I happen to be Black and or a woman, that somehow, even though I can rattle off all the qualifications in the world, my Blackness makes me unqualified. My question to you is that the attitude that you subscribe to?
And she spoke to what's happening right now as well.
At the end of the day, I don't think they'll go there. I don't think they can. They're in a box. They are in a box where they've got to choose between a mentally incompetent president and a DEI vice president, and they know that they're going to be facing a problem either way.
Now, I know that you are wont to read a loser when a loser says a thing, so I'm just going to let you comment on what you think about those words.
Again, you know what? I want people to listen to them. If you just listen to what they say, it will tell you everything that you need to know. Number one, you can obviously see that he's ignorant as all get out. And number two, you can see that he wishes he had half the competency of Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't talk to me about what a DEI hire looks like, because we know that you have never, ever engaged in diversity, equity, or inclusion when it came to your office. So we know that you don't know anything about hiring diversity.
Now that is a very interesting point. Let's take a look at what exactly your office looks like, Chip Roy. Let's take a look at what your staffs look like to see what exactly you know about diversity hiring, because as I just asserted earlier, it sounds like y'all actually probably need something. Now, see, we could have helped y'all with that. And, you know, we could have helped y'all with that, but no, y'all wanted to keep it all the way white. You just wanted to let in Byron Donalds and Tim Scott and Wesley Hunt in his jigger boots.
But let me tell you one of the real facts about diversity in this country. We're missing out on trillions of dollars in GDP, and they can go and check the receipts if they want to, because we have the rogue governors coming out of the state of Texas that are anti-DEI. We've got the rogue governor in Florida and so forth.
Now, this is actually an excellent point that really at some point warrants its own dedicated video. She's talking about the amount of money that you are missing out on by virtue of your ignorance. For instance, the wealth gap between American whites and blacks is projected to cost the U.S. economy between $1 and $1.5 trillion in lost consumption and investment just between 2019 and 2028. That is the projection. This translated to a projected GDP penalty of 4 to 6% by the time we get to 2028. And you know what? Why don't we look back? According to an April 2021 report from the San Francisco Federal Reserve Bank, 2019 output would have been $2.6 trillion higher if race and gender gaps in labor market opportunities and returns were eliminated. Further, they estimated that race and gender gaps cost the U.S. economy a collective $70.8 trillion in today's money between 1990 and 2019. $70.8 trillion that you are costing us just to be racist. That is commitment. That is commitment right there. And for a party that's always talking about finances and the economy, let's talk about the economy and how your ignorance is driving a stake in it.
And so what they need to do is get over their incompetence and just try to get on our level and decide that they're going to compete and start to come up with actual policies instead of going after people because of how they look or how they were born. Instead, they need to focus on taking care of the American people, which means that you're going to take care of people other than just white folk. It means that you take care of brown, Hispanic, Asian, and everyone.
It makes me wonder about the mental gymnastics that the black people in your jurisdiction have to do, knowing that you think that they are DEI just by virtue of them being black. Any accomplishment makes them DEI, which, by the way, also means that there's just a written-in excuse for any mistake that white people make, because they earned it. You know what I mean? They earned it. I mean, Chip Roy, there has to be black people in your jurisdiction in Texas. How does it land with them to hear you talk about them as being DEI? The black people that watch Fox News.
And install Kamala. We have a DEI presidency that they can celebrate for the rest of the administration.
I need to know, when you turn off Fox News at night and you put your shirt back on to go to bed, how is it that you feel about yourself? What is it that you are telling yourself? What's running through your head?
I took all my feelings, my wants and needs and dreams, and I buried them inside you. I planted a seed and watched and prayed over. I planted myself inside you and waited to bloom. It didn't take me no 18 years to realize the soil was hard and rocky and it was never gonna bloom.
You know, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right.